mate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've been good, man. I've been really good. Just working, training.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be going deep on this story because I haven't actually heard it direct from you, but like, man, the cardio you're doing these days is certainly stepping things up a bit. And after obviously, yeah, doing a marathon myself, I've got fucking full credit for you, bro. So let's hold off and discussing that. How's family life for you, mate?
Yeah, the family's good, mate. Kids are at school. My eldest actually starts big school next year, so good.
Dude, that like everyone says this, and I feel like just this like old bloke, but isn't it true that just the time passes? And
Oh,
even when I was looking at your check-in, I was like, 2020? What? You know? Mate,
yeah,
that's
3 years.
dude, wild and woolly. So, guys, we're going to be kickstarting this little special episode with the Kong Star. So, in 2 minutes. So, if you want to come into this one live, then certainly say howdy in the comments. That'd be nice. You can say hello to Kongy as well if you want. That'd be cool. And what else? So, if you watch this one on replay, make sure that you hashtag replay in the comments so we know you've been in here and got the juice. Fuck, Long has hair, mate. You're looking wild there on the cardio front, mate. Is this part of the
Yeah,
trend?
mate. It's probably a bit of the trend, mate.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've got 14 crew already coming into this one, mate. So we're going to get started in this episode in 1 minute, guys. If you've got any questions throughout the podcast that you want me to ask this bloke, look, he's doing some things that are pretty incredible stuff, and he'll be very modest about it. Hey, Kongy, nice run. I can't even say who this is. Hey, Shans, how are you, girlfriend? And if you want to ask any questions as this podcast proceeds, then throw them into the chat, and I'll certainly do so. Well done on the run, Mr. Hayden Emery. Geez, you bring in the new crew. Hey, how are you, buddy? All right, guys, let's get started on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. This afternoon, we're doing a special guest edition just because we felt like we could. This guy is coming off the back of a pretty cool feat, which we're going to discuss in a little bit. But we welcome Mr. Matty Kong to the podcast. Hey, Matty.
G'day,
You're in.
guys. Thanks for having me.
Have I interviewed you on the podcast before? I think I have once, right?
Yeah, once before. I think it was after. I don't know. It was after something I did.
Yeah. The list is too long now. And you were a skinhead back then as well, I think.
Yeah, I went from shaving my head twice a week to, I don't know, just one day I just felt like growing it out. So it's
Mate,
changed.
it keeps you young,
Changed as
brother.
good as a holiday, mate.
That's what they say, brother. It keeps you young. I was just saying before we started then, I went back to when your original check-in was. And it was like November 2020. And I'm like, man, that's like literally, we're on the dot of 3 years now. You were packing some heat back then as well. I was looking at the check-in that you did originally. You were just a touch under 100 kilos. Where did you actually start? Like, where did your weight max out at?
I remember in 2017, I was on a boys' trip up at Cairns, and we got a photo, like we got a group photo when we're having dinner.
Hmm.
And I just looked at the photo and I was just like, Jesus Christ, I need to start doing something because that is ridiculous. I think the highest I checked the scales was 115, but it could have been
Oh,
anywhere. Yeah.
wow. And how tall are you?
Just on 6 foot.
Just on 6 foot, yeah. That's what I usually feel like with boys. They kind of get to about 110, and then as soon as they tick over 110, at 6 foot, it starts to become obvious that they're carrying the weight. Up until that point, like if you think about you versus me, I'm much shorter than you. Like I have a smaller abdomen, so you don't notice it. But you can carry it as much. I'd look like a little tank. So yeah, dude. So what was it? You just saw a photo on a boys' trip and thought, "Fuck, I need to do something about this."
Yeah. Yeah. I just like that. I sort of was, I don't know, I guess in a bit of denial. I didn't think I would look that bad. And then I seen the photo. And plus I was getting married sort of soonish after that, and I sort of thought I don't want to look like that in my wedding photos, man. So I needed to do something, and I started the journey, and it put me up to here. So
Yeah. How did you actually go about it initially, like doing it on your own? Because you lost, it was close to what, 10, 15 kilos before we actually started.
yeah, I was sort of just like YouTube taught, man. To be honest with you, I
Mm.
just sort of bit the bullet, started going to the gym, not really knowing what I was doing, and then I just stopped eating really bad and sort of started eating what I thought was better. But even still, then I had no idea what sort of like what calories were, and like I used to eat like a whole avocado and a tuna and a can of tuna for smoko, not knowing that a whole avocado's got like 600 calories in it. You know?
Yeah, yeah, different. And it's like this is the thing though. The first thing you mentioned, like you kind of stopped eating crazy bad, and this is what can happen even with just some really small changes. People get like fanaticized about these, like I need to make these massive changes. But if you just make some really small changes, you're saying that you basically lost 15 to 20 kilograms just by not being an expert, but just trying to cut down on the real bad shit. And
Yeah.
what was the real bad shit that you mean? Like, what were you doing?
Oh man, I was taking the piss. Like I was, smoko back in the day was like a bacon and egg roll, sausage roll, and a chocolate oak or something, and then straight into lunch it'd be like a kebab and chips. So it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And my Macca's order alone would be, 20 to $30, and there's nothing left.
Eat, repeat, sleep. Yeah, I get it. So, dude, we started because you were feeling like, okay, so you got under the 100 by yourself, but you still had like 10 or 15 kilos to get down. And it was just about probably getting a little bit more refined knowledge. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. It was the biggest thing for me was just learning the extras, like the caloric value of foods,
Mm,
like, we always talk about the in versus out, or the
mm,
withdrawals and
mm,
deposits and that sort of stuff. Getting
mm.
in that mindset and, just really putting it to practice and getting a bit more discipline with the proper side of things.
Yeah, totally. I can't say who it is, but there's a comment. But it's good fats. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. And that's what I'm trying to say to people. Like eating clean isn't the solution all the time. It's actually, you can eat pretty dirty if you want, if the calories are calibrated for. And this is where it just comes down to a numbers game. But that's boring stuff. Let's focus on the good stuff. So you started losing the weight. You got down to what's your play weight now? What are you running at?
I'm sort of hovering between about 80 and 83,
Yeah.
just depending on, week to week sort of stuff. But like, because I've been doing so much volume, it's sort of just like,
Mm.
I kind of don't track my food and that anymore, but that's only because I sort of know now.
Yes.
Like the stuff I learned in the academy with you guys has sort of just cemented its way in there. So,
Mm.
if I sort of have something bad to eat, I know what it's going to entail to not,
To get it.
be
Yeah.
too bad in the long run.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know how to balance it out with all my other stuff, like all the stuff that I learned with you guys, or the little habits that I've built up, not having sugar in my coffee, and, having rice instead of pasta and all that sort of stuff. It's just sort of stuck with me now. And I
Yeah.
kind of just gotten used to it. And in a lot of cases, I actually enjoy it more. So,
Yeah. It's a really good point that you raised, dude, because I call it gaining a calorie consciousness. And what I mean by that is it's not that you have to diet for the rest of your life, but I think a lot of people, what they try to do is they just think, oh, well, I'll intuitively eat clean. I won't do any form of tracking at all. So they don't develop a calorie consciousness. They think healthy equals weight loss. And that's just not the case. And so for a period of time, it really helps to be able to just track some food, use my fitness pal, get a bit of an idea what's going in. And then at the same time, particularly if you've got some consciousness of how little general exercise burns, Like if you're starting to run the numbers that you're running, like it starts to get up into the thousands of calories, of course. But someone that's just going for a 20-minute walk that their watch is telling them that they burned 500 calories and it's actually 100, people just don't get the mix right, dude. Mate, what has losing the weight, like did you, when you were trying to lose the weight, was it for an intention, for a purpose, or were you just like, oh, I just need to get healthy? Or did you always want to start running?
Well, no, running was sort of an afterthought, but I suppose, my old man got crook and passed away in 2019. That was well into the sort of the process, but once he got crook and passed away, that was a big thing for me to just go, right, you got to sort of take care of yourself, and he even said to me, he goes, mate, you got a family now, you got to sort of wise up a bit and, take care of yourself pretty much. So that was that wasn't the main catalyst, but it definitely sort of got the ball rolling a bit more. And then the thing that got me into running the most was like COVID, because all the gyms shut. And like, to be quite honest, I was terrified of getting fat again. So and I had no weights, and everyone that was selling weights online was just
triple the price.
Yeah. So I just thought I'll just go for a run, and then that's the rest is history, as they say.
So what like when you started running, because like right now we're going to talk about this in a minute, but like you're running, you're not just going for a jog. So what happened which made you go, hang on, like perhaps I like this, or like what happened? What transition happened?
It was the first time I ran 5Ks without stopping. The memory actually come up about 2 days ago on my Facebook. Like that like I always say to people that was like the most memorable run that I've ever done, because once I sort of ran 5Ks without stopping, I sort of went, shit, that fucking, you drive that. Like, you would get in your car to drive 5Ks.
Yeah.
And I did it without stopping. So that first 5K that I ran without stopping, it just put a big smile on my face, made me feel proud. And I went, oh, let's fucking see how far I can go.
Oh, that is so good. That's the story of everything, isn't it? When you just like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And all of a sudden you're just going, fuck, accidentally did it almost, right? And then you're like, oh, wait a second, if I can do that, then I can do 6Ks. If I can do that, then I can do 8Ks. And is that the way you slowly built it up?
100%. Yeah, that's it. Like, and then every sort of subsequent milestone after that, like 10Ks, 15Ks, half marathon, like it all sort of was just like, right, that's the next one down, and let's keep going. And then I sort of, had I remember the time I ran a marathon for the first time. I was just no idea what I was doing, no idea about taking calories, water, whatever. So I just put all the stuff on me back in a little pack, and I just ran around the peninsula a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I got there, stopping in people's front yard to fill me water bladder up, and
Matt, let's cut to the good stuff. So I want to talk about the weekend, because I don't actually know exactly what happened apart from the highlight reel. But then maybe work backwards on how we got there. So what was it? Was it part of a formal race that you did on the weekend, or was it just like a communities thing?
Yeah, so it is a formal race event. Started back in 2005. It's called the Great North Walk Ultras.
Right.
And it basically it uses the Great North Walk, which runs from Sydney to Newcastle via Cessnock. So I think all in all, it's about 260 Ks the whole walk. But what they do now with the races, they used to do point to point. So like the 100-mile event would start at sort of Cessnock or Newcastle, and then it would run, and they'd all finish at Patonga. But they had to change it due to like logistics and all that sort of stuff a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So my event was the 50-mile event, which is 80 Ks. And I just entered the race probably about 3 months ago, but I've been building up to it for about a year, sort of knowing that this is the next step. Last year when I did the 50K, it was the same event. So I did the 50K last year, 50-mile this year, and then, I don't know, 100 next year maybe. We'll see.
So there's different gradings? Is that how it works? So you
Yeah.
can choose.
So, there's different distances. So they have a 30K event, 50K event, 50-mile event, 100K event, and a 100-mile event. So
Wow.
all the bigger races, the 50-mile, 100K, 100-mile, they all start on the Saturday at 6 o'clock, and then the shorter distances start on the Sunday.
Wow. So can for the guys that are from Australia or specifically New South Wales, can you give me some sort of understanding of what 50 kilometers looks like? Because that to me, that's, if I'm not wrong, that's like Wahroonga at the start of the freeway to like the Central Coast exit and more, right?
Yeah. So my event was the 50-mile, 80K. So it works out to be from about Bensville to Chatswood.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
To everyone that is not from the Central Coast, that means nothing. So I'll summarize it in saying that's a fucking long way. But to everyone that is listening, that is from the Central Coast, Bensville to Chatswood. Holy shit, dude! That's basically the commute that I did for 6 years, or five or 6 years when I lived at home, and that took me an hour on a drive.
Yeah.
So, what was the timing that you did it in?
9 hours 36 minutes. I think it took me. I think that was the official time. I think.
Dude, that's bloody mind blowing. And so, were you attempting to do it in under 10 hours, or it's just where the cookie landed?
Well, 10 hours was the sort of like that was the goal I sort of set myself, just knowing from training and what I've been doing, and sort of the guys that I've been training with, they sort of know.
Mm,
So yeah, like 10 hours was my number. I would be disappointed if it was going to take longer than that.
mm,
So 9 hours would have been like, holy shit, that's beyond expectations.
mm.
10 hours plus would have been disappointing. So I got right, pretty much smack bang where I wanted to be.
I was looking at, like, I was trying to do the maths. So I think if I'm right, it works out to be about 7.5 minutes a kilometer.
Yeah, that's what it roughly was. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if I think about what it took me, I don't know the exact amount, but certainly running 6-minute kilometers in a marathon, and this is double a marathon length. Like, fuck, that's incredible, man. How do you so like, what's driving this? Like, obviously you build up to it and add more to it each time, and like you said, maybe next year you might go to the 100K, but like, what do you get out of it?
Enjoyment. Like I genuinely like doing it. I have fun doing it. I look forward to getting out in the bush. I don't. Yeah, it's very hard for people to wrap their head around it.
Yeah, for me it is, because like almost like I felt like one and done with a marathon. I don't really have any desire to get out and run again. I might do in the future, but maybe at some point. But I look at the way that Nick is going down the same line. Clint Guyat's going down the same line. They're seeing it, and this is why I wanted to get you on the podcast, because I think they'll listen to this and be quite motivated by it, even though at this time it's probably still a long way off. Are you okay? So enjoyment. Do you mean enjoyment of the process, or do you mean actually I like doing the event, or do you mean the prep? Like, what part do you enjoy?
I love it all, man. To be honest with you, like I sort of set my week out so I have like a couple of easy runs, a couple of workout sessions, and then a long run towards the end.
Mm,
Plus, we sort of have a little social thing on a Saturday, but in the summer I work Saturdays, so I can't always get there.
mm,
So, like, I like the hard speed sessions that we do. Like, I get, you know, like fulfillment out of it. It's hard. It's doing hard shit. It's like when you do a hard weight session and
mm.
you're walking out of there all sore and stiff, and you go, "Geez, that felt good."
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. And then on the long run, on a Sunday, like then most of the time you're out in the bush, you're looking at great views, you're seeing shit. It's mad. Like it's good.
How do you describe like? Do you believe in the runner's high?
100%.
So how
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
describe that? What is that? What to someone that doesn't know?
Well, to me, when it happens to me, it's usually I usually hit like a really nice view or something like that in where I'm running,
Yeah.
and I'm sort of tired, buggered, and then all of a sudden I just get a big smile on my face and I start laughing to myself out loud, and then I just start running hard. It feels good.
The one of the things that I can imagine, and I don't know this to be true without putting words in your mouth, but one of the things that certainly prepping for running a marathon did for me was it gave me structure and it gave me plan to my week, because you can't just accidentally run it. You've got to put the training in. I felt like having two dedicated runs and then a long run at the weekend, it like really allowed me to plan out my week. And then secondly, I didn't want to sacrifice a ton of gym sessions and lose a bunch of muscle as well. So I was
Yeah.
making sure that my programming on 2 to 3 days of strength training was properly allocated. So what it did is it because of the amount of time that it takes, it forced me to have structure. Is that true for you? Like, do you feel it helps set up your week?
Yeah, I agree. I'd agree with that. I definitely find that when I'm enjoying my running the most is when I've got something to train for.
Yes.
Like I know that if I haven't got a race planned or not one in like the near future, I'm sort of just running just to get out and have fun and kind of thing.
Mm,
But when I have that sort of training block sort of set out, that 2 months before,
mm,
or even when I'm just sort of building a base,
mm,
like I love having that structure because I know, Mondays, easy run, Tuesdays, session,
mm,
Wednesdays, easy run, Thursdays, some sort of session, hills or something like that. And then,
mhm.
yeah, mind you, though, I probably should have done a bit more strength training with my running, but just, time wise, like I sort of only get, 1 hour to train
Mm,
every day.
mm,
And because I had this big race coming up, it was like all dedicated to
mm.
running. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Because you're a husband and a dad, and you're a working man, and it's not as if like it's not like you're a pro athlete that just sits around and does nothing but train. So
Nah,
yeah,
weekend warrior for sure.
yeah, trying to fit it in is mental. Do you think there's like you haven't hinted at this, but one of the questions I kind of wanted to ask you is I think that a lot of people probably get into running because they've got a dark side. You know, they're like kind of like Goggins, right? They're trying to harness something to like I know for example Kev Grant, he's not running anywhere near as long as you, but he's like, no, I need to. I feel like this darkness coming out of me. Like I'm like, is there any of that with you, or is it just actually like, nah, I just love this?
Not so much for me, but I know that it is definitely the case with a lot of people. Like you look at someone like Rich Roll.
Yeah,
He was an ex alcoholic addict, and he sort of changed his life and did all the same sort of stuff. It's
yeah,
a pretty common theme with a lot of ultra runners, trail runners. A lot of them have like addiction problems or like bad past and that.
right.
And then this is just like they just get into it, and it's like a way that they can just feed their wild side, I suppose.
Yeah. Geez, that's a really eloquent way of putting it, because I knew what question I wanted to ask, but not really how to get to the question. So yeah, that makes sense. And I've listened to podcasts with Rich Roll, and like he's a fucking awesome. Like,
Yeah, his book's great too. He's got a good book.
okay,
Mm.
yep, need to read it. So, dude, probably the last thing I really wanted to ask you is that for someone running, sorry, who wants to run more, like, have you got kind of one, two, three tips that you think you've had to learn maybe the hard way, or it took you a long time to learn the lesson? Because and maybe to give you a moment to think about it, for me, the biggest thing that I had to learn was that you have to stick to the plan that you've been given. And the reason I had to learn that is I hated running, because my idea of like I need to do some cardio was I'm going to go out today and do a run, and then I'd run as hard as I could until I got extremely tired and said, "Fuck this! Why am I doing this? This is stupid." The moment
Yeah,
that I had a structure to this, where I'm trying to modulate my heart rate in a certain zone, it felt like there was actually some method to the madness, and that's what actually gave me some drive. But what about for you,
yeah,
bro?
yeah, 100%. Like there's an old like there's an old thing sort of in all the running books and that you hear is you got to learn to run slow before you can run fast, and that's a big one. Like as you say, if you go out and bust yourself, you cooked, and you go, I don't want to do that again. That sucked.
Yeah.
So yeah, learn to run slow before you run fast. Invest in a good pair of shoes.
Okay.
Like doesn't have to be the most expensive pair, but something that fits you well and something that is comfortable and preferably doesn't break the bank.
Okay.
And
Is there just
the
on
third,
something that you,
the,
sorry, for someone that's going, okay, so for example, quite a few of our boys are getting into running now. We have a separate cardio group, as you know. All good.
sorry, mate, I had a phone call then.
It's all
Sorry.
good, bro. All
What?
good. So a few of our guys are looking to get into a bit of running now. How do you choose a shoe? It might sound like a dumb question, but how do you actually choose something? Like what's the process that you go about?
Well, I think unfortunately, it's a lot of trial and error. Like I
Right.
spent a bit of money before I found and there's no real perfect shoe, I guess, but just do the best due diligence you can by checking reviews, going into a shop, like preferably a proper running shop,
Okay.
and asking people that know, because it definitely helps. Like I would find shoes that were way too skinny for my feet, and it was hurting all the time. And then it wasn't until I actually went into a proper shop like Pace Athletics or something like that.
Mm,
Go
mm.
in there and just say, look, getting into running. They'll say, you're running trail, you're on the road, what are you running? And then just say, flat out beginner, and they'll put you on the right path. But, can't go wrong with the basics, man. Nike, Adidas, they've all got shoes ranging from beginner to bloody marathon world
Dude,
record holders, you know what I mean? So
mate, I love
that's
it.
the best way to do it.
I know you got to pick up your kids soon, so let me ask you kind of one more question, bro. What's the where do you see yourself going with this? Like, do you have aspirations to do something with this?
Uh, for myself personally, I do. I like the goal I set for myself probably about 2 years ago now, was to run 100 Ks. Like I seen one of my friends, he did it a couple of years ago, and he ran 100 kilometers, and I was completely blown away that someone could actually do that. So 100 kilometers is still the goal,
Mhm.
but you never know. I wouldn't mind taking on 100 miles later down the track when I'm maybe a bit older, a bit more experienced.
Wow.
So
So
yeah,
that's an interesting thing. Maybe when I'm a bit older and a bit more experienced, that's not something that you would necessarily finish a sentence with after what you just said. That seems like almost like it's going to get harder as you get older. So
yeah.
is this very much about gaining what, a mindset or what?
Um, I think so. I just know that taking on something like 100 miles, I think you have to be humbled in a certain way. I think you have to have a few bad runs to
Uh,
make you actually go, righto, this is what I need to do and this is how I need to do it. So,
what is a bad
no,
run? When you say a bad run, like what does that look like? Where you try to go and you go too hard and you hit the wall and don't finish or something
yeah.
like that?
So if you don't get your nutrition right, or you go out too hard, or you know, yeah, just something goes wrong, Jace. If something goes wrong on the run, then
Right.
it's a bad run.
Yeah, right. Okay, that makes sense. And final question, because it's just like for me, this mindset is like fucking crazy. Um, you mentioned you want to try to get to 100K, but you just did 80.
Yep.
So is this, they always, what I was told was the last 10Ks of a marathon is really like in your head. Do you think that's applicable to the last 20Ks of a going from 80 to 100? Is that such a mental battle? Like it doesn't seem like that much more, given that you've already done 80.
Well, it definitely, that last 20 Ks will definitely still be daunting. I mean, the longest I'd ran before the weekend was 50 Ks, and when I hit 35 Ks on the weekend, I actually said out loud to myself, I don't think I can do this today, because I just hit the wall then.
Wow.
So once you hit those long distances, you sort of realize after a while that you do hit peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
So you'll go through a period of shit, and Mike and a couple of other guys will be able to attest to this. You hit some shit on your run, and you go like, "This is it. I'm done. I'm cooked." And then half an hour, 45 minutes later, all of a sudden your legs will be back, and you'll be like, "Right, let's go. Good to go." So I felt better on the weekend at 70 Ks in than I did at 35. Like it's
Yeah.
just,
Wow.
I don't know how to explain it, man. It's fucking weird.
Well, I experienced it myself on a very micro level, but I feel, almost embarrassed putting my dick up against yours. You know what I mean? It's like you've definitely got the length battle here. And Mike said, "Yeah, cannot agree more. Failed to win. Yeah, dude. Hey, man. I wanted to have, like I said, I wanted to have a podcast close up after you'd just done this, because there are a lot of guys. Yeah, like I said, in our academy that even though you're quieter now in presence, certainly not in achievement, and I know that they're looking. So I think this will be one that will point them towards, if that little bit of inspiration comes up where they're kind of like, man, I just ran 10Ks, what more could I do? And this is where it starts, right?
Yeah, but look, just if you like it, you get into it. Just take it easy and just go. Just like set yourself new goals, as you say, Jace. New levels, new devils. Just find, once you hit 10Ks, pick 15 and then just work at that and then build up, build up. I know there's a lot of guys in here that are running half marathons now, like every other weekend, and it's great. It's awesome, right? Like, if you do it properly, it's so good, man. I love it. Like,
This is the best.
Awesome.
And dude, I will say that I think like a lot of marathon runners, they just like look really gaunt and like they're having a tough time. You look really healthy, mate. You look good. You look like vibrant.
I don't feel it at the moment, mate.
Really?
Let me tell you, I didn't sleep real well last night.
A couple of beers after it as well, no doubt. So,
Yeah.
hey guys, I'm going to leave it there. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast. We had about 20 people watching this episode, dude. So obviously a little bit of cardio interest. So thank you very much for joining, mate. I appreciate your time, dude. You're a legend, and I love you. And yeah, you're just a great.
Thank you very much, Jace. I got there because of you guys, mate. It's legend. Thank you.
This has been the Better Body Academy podcast. We'll catch you in the next